Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar. I'm personally extremely excited about it. It's quite rare to be able to bring together both a leading Forrester analyst and the CMO of a well-known brand together for a conversation. So I'm keen to make the most of it. Before we get started though, let me introduce you to our speakers. We are very lucky to have with us Mark Grannan today. Mark is a senior analyst at Forrester. He is well renowned. You may already know him actually, from his research and expertise around digital experience. He will be kicking things off today and will be sharing insights on how to survive in the competitive world of e-commerce. We then have with us Monica Cleveland. Monica has a rather big job and a very packed agenda, so it's really great that Monica could join us today. She is the CMO of the Annie Selke companies. They're a family of brands including Pinecone Hill and Dash and Albert, and they provide high-quality lifestyle products for the home. They're very nice. After Mark's section, I'll be asking Monica 10 top questions which cover their story as a brand and then the steps they've taken to build a next-generation experience. It's definitely worth staying until the end because Monica will also be sharing 3 top tips for any other brand or retailer also looking to improve their online presence. So do stay tuned. And finally, my name is Alice. I work at Bloomreach, and if you hadn't guessed from my accent, I am based in London. Bloomreach is a software vendor, and we help companies, much like Annie Selke, to compete with the Goliath of Amazon and their competitors. We have applications in AI-powered search and merchandising, as well as content management. And together, these increase online revenue and give customers such a good experience that they keep coming back. So without further ado, let's get cracking. Mark, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Alice, and thank you, everyone, for having me on. As Alice mentioned, my name is Mark Grannan. I'm a senior analyst with Forrester Research. I've been covering the digital experience landscape for almost 9 years now, and I'm excited to get a chance to walk through a few trends and maybe explore a few best practices here on today's call. But first, I want to take a quick trip down memory lane, specifically through the lens of a few key data points and pieces of research that Forrester has landed on around the emerging landscape for e-commerce. So if we go back a couple of years to 2017 and we look at the trends around the starting point for researching new products and services that you're looking to buy, it's pretty clear that digital channels like laptop and mobile devices dominate the early stages of the buyer journey. In fact, it's just too convenient to be open 24/7, and really that self-service aspect of doing that research showcases where and how you as a brand need to be available on digital channels to help your customers do their research and due diligence up front before they make a purchase. And then if we look at 2018, there's some data that came back that was really interesting around customers' preference for multimodal e-commerce. So think about buy or reserve online and pick up in store, perhaps. And those aspects of convenience are really what's driving a lot of behavior on e-commerce channels. And specifically, we see that most e-commerce is happening because folks want to avoid shipping costs, or there's a really strong interest in avoiding traffic, so things like picking up at a convenient time for you. And then lastly, maybe wanting to ensure that the item is in stock. And one interesting anecdote from that research was that retailers who do support buy or reserve online and pick up in store found that shoppers buy more when they get into the physical store. And so if we look at more recent trends around in the last 2 years and even emerging into this year, we can see that top retailers and brands are exploring how digital is not just transforming the shopping journey, the browse journey, nor just the online pickup type journey, but also the in-store journey. So things like digital kiosks, for example, and enabled sales associates with something like an iPad or a tablet to help do co-browsing with their customer in the store is really driving the next level of engagement, and it's building more trust. So where is this going in the future? When we ask ourselves in 2019 and beyond, where can we invest in e-commerce to stay relevant, there's some pretty obvious places we would start to look. Many of us now default to literally searching online, whether or not that's Google or Bing or something else, or maybe your kids are around, maybe they're asking Alexa for help. So very clearly, we're asking for help in big forums. And if I'm going to take a wild guess, I have a feeling it's around personalization. And that guess is probably pretty close to right. So personalization has been a hot topic for e-commerce and digital leaders for about 5 years now. But I have a proposition for you today, because personalization is a very loaded term. It can mean lots of things to lots of folks across industries. So for the purposes of e-commerce, I'm actually going to ask to swap in relevance for personalization, just for the sake of this call, so we can maybe better understand how the tactics support the strategy. And a couple of the tactics here tie directly to the data sources that you will use to drive relevance. And 4 specific data sources here around the direct prompts, so the queries that they're actually typing into a search browser, their browsing behavior where they've navigated directly on the site, the context, perhaps their device or their location, history, if you're able to access this data, around previous sessions, their profile, or even past transactions, and then external trends, things like recalls or popular terms that are coming up in the media, perhaps. And the ability to flexibly use all 4 of those as necessary. Some might get dropped in favor of others. Other regions might not support certain uses of data because of regulation and privacy standards. But if we continually use those and refine those data sources, all while asking, will this make the experience more relevant to my customer? I think that's a good North Star as we start to align some of these efforts to really invest in better e-commerce experiences that will differentiate your brand. So I'm going to pivot now to a key question. And this question around what is the most important UI or UX element on your e-commerce site to build trust? I'll give you a second just to think about that. What connotes trust in the context of e-commerce? Well, I have a theory. The theory is that the 404 page, basically when someone chooses a link that is no longer it's a broken link, or it's no longer a product that you support, or simply it doesn't work with your current site structure, it's a chance for you to provide honesty, humor, and maybe even be helpful. So I pasted in a few screenshots here from some other brands that really showcases the personality that they wish to convey, and maybe even expose some other options. We weren't able to find the link that you put in here, but maybe you're searching for something like X. And that opportunity, I think, is something that's really knocking on the door of how to showcase your brand and your company's culture across an e-commerce channel, which sometimes can feel very sterile. And one way to do that more broadly, because how often are you getting 404 errors, is through search results. And so site search is going to be one aspect of driving relevance and therefore personalization that I'm going to double click on here today. Because there are so many tactics, I'm going to streamline it against search to help us understand how site search can really help drive your customer experience in many ways that maybe you didn't think about before. The first one, though, is one that I actually want to showcase an error, perhaps, or a small failure. This is a brand. This is a retailer, so to speak. They're called Huckberry. They have some of their own brands, but they also resell others. They have a few small physical stores. But when I went there to look up how to talk to customer service about something that I received in error, it was the wrong size of a pair of jeans, I couldn't find it. So then I was forced to browse around and look for it and track down and hunt and peck, which made me ultimately a little more frustrated when I went to execute that customer service engagement. Now let's compare that to the juggernaut of Amazon. Search for customer service on Amazon, I actually get some type-ahead responses here that are actually pretty helpful. They'll allow me to navigate to the appropriate section on the site. They'll maybe either have an FAQ, so avoid me dialing up to the 1-800 number, or providing customer service forms, so again, them not having to have someone staffed and ready, willing to, and able to answer the call right then. But lots of ways that they're being helpful right there from the search bar. And now let's go back to this notion of trust, but let's stick with Amazon. Because with Amazon, they've built their reputation as having a wide array of products, great shipping, great policies, and an easy search, an easy way to find the products that you're looking for. But unfortunately, as my colleague Colin Colburn is covering site search and SEO, we're finding that a lot of the search results on Amazon pages is actually either paid search rankings or it's Amazon's products themselves. And so this type of activity may serve to undermine the trust that you or I or other customers might have in looking to search on Amazon.com. So it's an opportunity for you as brand leaders and e-commerce leaders to potentially invest in search as a key aspect of your digital experience and your e-commerce initiatives going forward. I actually want to pause here and then informally ask you to think about a quick poll. Which side of the fence do you currently come down on when it comes to search? Because everyone has search on their site today. But there's two ways to think about it. On the left-hand side, we have some content that I will try to funnel through some level of context and hopefully be able to tailor based on your intent. But basically, it starts with, I have content, I want to show it to you. Whereas on the flip side of that equation, you have, I'm starting with what I know about you, dear customer, what you've typed in or asked as a search query, and how can I then refine that understanding based on your context and then give you the right content. All the same pieces, just assembled in a much different recipe that drives a different experience. Now, unfortunately, we're actually sub-optimizing both sides of this equation. We're putting those two triangles and we're creating a choke point, if you will, through our understanding of the customer request and also through things like the site index. We're not allowing the two sides to talk very well because parsing a request and matching that to what we are selling or servicing isn't really a good way to match up the right product to the right customer context. So I want to explore maybe why we're doing that and how search fits into these broader initiatives to improve digital customer experience. So we asked folks like yourselves about your priorities to invest in digital customer experience. And this was about last spring, so in 2018. They came back with saying a redesign across touchpoints to unify those experiences is the number one, and that's been number one for a number of years. And then the number two right there, tied with it, was a new response about improving analytics, reporting, and attribution. And those two things go hand in glove because one is unifying the experience, the other is working to improve your understanding of the customer. And those two things literally help to unify experiences either over time or across channels, both very helpful to embracing the notion of a customer journey that may not be as linear as it has been in the past. But I also thought that there's this personalization thing that's rearing its head again, and I mentioned it earlier as being one of the top initiatives for brands and retailers over the past 5 years or so. But we want to acknowledge that it's really hard. And we wanted to find out exactly why it's hard to execute against this strategy. Well, according to our research, we found that folks like yourselves are finding insufficient or lack of access to customer data from across their own organization. They can't stitch the customer service data into the transaction history. We can't cross-reference browsing data from multiple devices. It's just too hard. That's the number one challenge by a pretty wide margin here. But second to that is a lack of contextual data to use in real-time targeting. It's hard to pull in things like location or device type in an accurate and reliable way. And I just want to showcase that in conjunction with something that I also cover, which is content. We don't have the appropriate level of content. And sometimes I find that folks don't start on a personalization journey because they fear they might not have the right content for the right context or the right segment, but actually that choke point is somewhat down the road. So we need to solve for this notion of customer context first. And this is where I think site search will actually have a leg up because not only are we facing these challenges around personalization and unifying experiences, we're doing so with limited and teams. And so we need to make up for this lack of budget and staff and skills, which is these are the top barriers when we asked about overcoming barriers to success. What are the top things you need to overcome? It's people, skills, budget, and lack of agility and time to market. Even legacy and incompatible technologies or the inability to work across functions, you can see very quickly where a site search solution may be a really good fit to solve for a number of these things. And I'll get to exactly why that is in a second. But I think the real answer here is that you have a big challenge in front of you, that certainly solving for e-commerce is important. Getting those conversions on your channel is very important to the health of your business. But you also have an opportunity to build a digital experience architecture that allows your business to be much more nimble across channels and across phases of the journey. And that's where I think site search is going to fit. I think search is going to have a two-speed impact, both on your operations here in the upper black box, which is integrating tools like content and analytics, your optimization rules. It's going to allow you to create taxonomies and ontologies and use a common NLP or natural language processing service. And it's going to do that again for the practitioners, for your merchandisers, those key folks on your team who are allowing search to come in as a proxy for navigation. So no longer do I need to rely on them browsing to the right subsegment or subcategory of my catalog. I can allow them to use search to find customer support much more easily, like I showcased earlier. And those practitioners can use this tool and the rules around managing those experiences to affect not only conversion value, but other business rules. Things like treating a customer the way they need to be treated based on their region or perhaps their disability. Optimizing against a wider variety of goals other than just cart value. And then understanding broader search trends so you can see the path that customers are taking and maybe get out in front of it with new products or bundles or promotions. And ultimately, I think site search can not only do this within your broader digital experience architecture, it can maybe do more. And I think there's the question, how far could you take search if you really decided to make this a differentiator? I think there's two key things that I want to just quickly call out. One is that I don't need to manage all of those business rules manually anymore. I can use algorithmic optimization, or what you might call AI or machine learning, to allow your merchandisers, your practitioners, to boost the relevance by working with those algorithms, to massaging the parameters to making sure that you're hitting the targets across business and engagement and operational metrics. And then it will even do maybe new cool things around handoff from a virtual agent to a chatbot. Could be seamless, where you don't know that you're talking to a decision tree-based virtual agent before that decision tree can recognize that it's working outside of its boundaries and it needs to hand off to a real customer service agent, a person on the other end. And that's where search, as a foundational technology around things like NLP, could really become powerful as there's a handoff between search and customer service, for example. And then number two is search becomes a key value enabler. And this might be a little bit of a moonshot, but what if your customers defaulted to your search rather than Google or Amazon? Pretty powerful concept and a pretty big opportunity, perhaps. But ultimately, it's the technology. It's not even necessarily about site search, as much as I wish that would be front and center. It's about the customer, your customer. And if you build loyal customers, and certainly site search, we already talked about how that can facilitate it. E-commerce in general is a great way to just serve them in a moment that is always on and very convenient. But if you build loyal customers, it might just change your business altogether. And so we need to keep our eyes wide open to this notion of moving our business maturity from beginner through intermediate and maybe even to advanced, where we might end up disrupting our entire industry. So that's the opportunity that lies in front of us. I want to say thank you to Alice and Bloomreach for having me on, and now I'm going to hand it back over to Alice.
Fantastic. Mark, that was excellent. Thank you for joining us and also for speaking so dynamically. I enjoyed the rhetorical questions. They certainly kept me on my toes. So thank you very much. And now we are moving on to the second half of our webinar. We now get the chance to ask 10 questions to Monica Cleveland. As I mentioned, Monica is the CMO of Annie Selke and has some stories to share that are really gold for any brand or retailer to hear. So let's go for question one. It's an easy one to start. Monica, could you please introduce and tell us a bit more about your role?
Thanks, Alice. As Alice mentioned, I'm Monica Cleveland. I'm CMO at Annie Selke here, and I've been working for Annie for 15 years. I've had many roles here. My most recent was VP of Ecommerce, where we worked on building up our e-commerce team from scratch. And now we're working on transitioning and adding to be a full-fledged marketing team.
Excellent. Thank you, Monica. 15 years is a pretty amazing stint. So moving on to question two. Could you tell us a bit more about Annie Selke? What do you stand for as a brand, and what's your online vision as a company?
Sure. What we really care passionately about is making people happy by designing beautiful, high-quality products that bring joy to your home. We have really strong brand and customer loyalty, and we've got best in business customer service. And so we want to take that and grow our awareness. Coming year, we've got exemplar products and experience. We care about every detail. Annie cares specifically about everything that happens, from the way you're experience the site through purchase, and then all the way through to when you get the package and open it up. And so making all of those details be really high-end and top for the customer is really important to us.
Okay, excellent. Sounds like I need to get shopping. Question three. So think to us about the pressures that e-commerce companies are facing. But from your experience, what are some of the challenges that you see brands facing today?
I think what is most important for brands to do is to focus on the key elements that distinguish them and that they do really well. There is so much sameness out in the marketplace, and keeping true to your core vision and is really important to brands. It doesn't mean you can ignore the competition or ignore what other people are doing, but don't let that dictate your story. You need to blaze your own trail and do the things that you know your customers are really looking for. You also need to keep your technology in the forefront, of course. It's more important than ever. You need to make sure you familiarize yourself with all the options that are out there so you can understand the ones that are important to your business, because not everything is valuable to each business. There are so many different options that are out there, and understanding the ones that will add value to your customers are really key today.
Okay, some great tips there. Thank you very much. So question number 4. Can you tell us how you're tackling some of the challenges at Annie Selke? What are the steps you're taking to evolve and then to stay ahead of the competition?
Sure. We have internal people that do all kinds of research, that read, go out, listen to people like Mark who are talking about things that are coming up, understanding new innovations, going out to conferences, learning about things, and then bring that information back internally. Propose technology additions, develop business cases, and prioritize those plans and adding them finally to our roadmap. For us, merchandising from the start was key to our customer experience. Our customers, we have products that customers like to see. They want to know, does this blue match the blue that they have already in their bed frame? They want to know if this pillow matches this other duvet cover. They want to know that the rug is going to fit in their space. And so having the products merchandised in a way that they can see them was important to us from the beginning. And when we first did our Hybris implementation back in 2000, several years ago when we did that, we actually held up our implementation by 6 months so that we could upgrade to a new version and to give our merchants control over what products were shown where. So super important to show the right products to the customer at the right time and in the place where they're looking for them.
Okay, fantastic. That leads actually very nicely onto our next question. As part of your digital strategy, you have invested heavily in search and merchandising and the latest tools. Can you just talk a bit more about why this combination, so that search and then the merchandising, which I suppose covers the customer's browse experience, why were these two something that you really decided to focus on from the start?
Sure. Firstly, we needed it to be intuitive for search. Customers are looking for a product or a category, and we were showing all sorts of irrelevant results. And also control on our end. They were seeing these irrelevant results, and we couldn't do anything about it. We'd make changes to our back-end rules, and a new problem would be created. It was just a terrible customer experience. And finally, we wanted to reduce that customer friction and pain that Mark had talked about earlier. We wanted to, we would see customers that would make multiple searches and try to find what they were looking for, or worse, they'd abandon their search. And we just were not getting the most relevant products in front of the customers at the time when they were looking for it. So from a customer standpoint, it's huge. Even before you hit enter right now, when you start typing on our site, we're giving them options, and some of them are visual options of specific products. If you start typing herringbone, you're going to come up with our most relevant products that we see you've been looking for, other customers are searching for. And we give you products, we give you other categories, search options, and you just right away you see all sorts of options. And so from there you can go directly where you want to go. If you want to go to a specific product, you don't need to go to a search results page to see all sorts of irrelevant products. We'll take you right where you want to go. And if it's not a specific product you're looking for multiple different, you're not sure exactly, we'll take you to a search results page and show you products that are most closely aligned with what you are looking for. And then finally, from a business standpoint, it's been a huge win. We know when you show customers what they are looking for, they'll purchase and see that, and we see that in our numbers. In the first 6 months of implementing our Bloomreach search, we saw a 40% increase in revenue from search. It's just been huge for us. Just that simple thing of like showing the customers what they're looking for when they're looking for it.
That is mega. Thank you very much. I think that really nicely covers our question 6, which is what impact that search engine had. And let's go on for our question 7, to talk a little bit more about the merchandising side of things. So obviously, alongside Bloomreach's search, you've adopted our merchandising technology. And it'd be great to hear a bit more about how your team are using this and the kind of results you're seeing, how this is impacting you and the customer experience.
Sure. I mean, it's been night and day. We had been asking our analytics team from day one, like, I want to see what products are selling from what categories. And we've had zero to limited luck. We struggled to implement something like this in our analytics platform, and it just had very limited mixed results. And when we first saw the Bloomreach Insights, it was just a light bulb moment. That is what we've been looking for. We have multiple categories that products can be in. You don't want to see the same handful of products listed at the top of each one. We want to show, again, we know in this category people are looking for this type of rug. In that category, they're looking for these other types of rugs. So even though one might be products can be in multiple different categories, you can show the products that customers are looking for in that particular category. And before we did this, we did all kinds of complex manual reporting to try to figure out how to merchandise the categories. And it was also, we have over 400 categories. It was nearly impossible. It actually was literally impossible to merchandise all of them manually in a timely manner and often enough for the customers. And now it's with the Bloomreach algorithm, it's all done automatically. And when the merchants go in, they have the data right there to say, to update things themselves. And so we work closely with the machine and with the merchandisers to work closely together. So we know certain categories, we let the Bloomreach algorithm work and they give the best results. And certain categories, our merchandisers work with the Bloomreach algorithm to give the best results. And it's all tracked in activities also in Bloomreach. So for each activity that we do, the merchandiser will make a change to the merchandising, and we track it in Bloomreach, and then we look at it 30 days later and say, okay, well, this is what was happening before the change, and this is what's happening after, and we can see a lift in, we've had 34% lift in revenue from all of the activities that we've done in the first 6 months of the Bloomreach implementation. And then on top of that, there's the A/B testing in Bloomreach, and that's where we've gone in and seen which categories work best and let the Bloomreach algorithm just do its thing, and which ones the merchandisers need to go in and work with. And it's been great for our, getting in front of the customer, again, that what they're looking for, and it's been really valuable for us.
Okay, fantastic. I'm pleased. It sounds like life has hopefully got a bit better for your merchandising team. They don't have to work 24/7. So that's very encouraging. So, Monica,
yes,
we
they
have
love it.
only good news. We've 3 questions to go, so you're nearly there. The next question is about the combination of your e-commerce platform and then the technology on top. So you mentioned before you're using SAP Hybris, or now SAP Commerce Cloud, for your e-commerce platform. And as you probably know, with Bloomreach and SAP are partners, and this combo is becoming very popular. But for you at Annie Selke, how did Bloomreach's search and merch help drive additional value from your e-commerce platform?
So SAP Hybris has been a good partner with us. We're currently working on a big upgrade project, and first we need to upgrade, and then we're doing the cloud migration. And so that's a big project for us this year. And then we add that Bloomreach's core search and merchandising, and together it's really just been a foundational piece for us. So the 2 partners just work really well for us together.
Excellent. Thank you, Monica. So we've heard about your current. Can you tell us a bit more about Annie Selke in the future? I'm certainly going to keep track of your website and any upcoming things, but are there any initiatives or plans that we can look forward to seeing?
Yeah, for us, content is really important, and it all ties back to providing that stellar customer experience. When customers are looking for ideas on how to pick the right rug construction, or what works well in a small space, or how to clean an indoor-outdoor rug, like, we want to be there to help them with those pieces. And search is key for that. That is what we want to do, is we want to help the customer find what they're looking for. And we want to help them to make their home that's filled with joy.
Lovely, nice. We move on to our final question, question 10, a question that everybody's been waiting for. Can you tell us your top tips or advice that you'd give to companies like yours who are also trying to improve their e-commerce experience?
The first thing I'd say is just understand your customers. What are they looking for? What motivates them? What why are they looking to purchase from you, or why are they going to your competition instead of you? And then give them a world-class experience. Make what they're looking for the best that they can be. If you don't provide it, somebody else is going to. And so just that world-class end-to-end experience is super important today. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Monica. And of course, it's been a really good webinar and some good insights and hopefully engaging for our audience. To our speakers, obviously, thank you very much for coming today. And to our audience, thank you very much for your participation. We've actually got people dialing in from all over the world, not just rainy London today. So to all of you, thank you for joining, and I hope you enjoyed it. I've left my email on the screen, alice.wyatt@bloomreach.com. If you have any questions at all, do reach out to me with the email on the slide. Thank you very much.